Hello, team. Welcome to another ATP Geopolitics video with myself, Jonathan M.S. Pierce, and my good friend Greg Terry, where we are going to be talking Ukraine with you. And it's rather a coincidental, fortuitous time for us to be speaking about all things Ukraine. It's going to be a generic video today, but actually some huge things have just been taking place over the last sort of 24 hours or so. So there's so much to talk about. Greg, how are you?
I'm doing great, brother, especially after seeing the news this morning. Yesterday was a tough day with the way the strikes unfolded on civilians, and Zelensky last night in his address said we will answer back. So this could be a part of the answer. I can actually see the fires in Russia burning from my house in the U.S. That's how big they are. Yes. So get your weenies and marshmallows and everybody just stick them out of your window wherever you're at in this world, and probably it will get a little heat from that fire.
It is quite incredible. So let's talk a little bit about this. So I'm going to show some videos for the people to watch, and then we can talk about what the implications of this are, which I think is really important, because I'm as confident enough to say I think this is potentially a turning point in the war for a number of reasons. But before we get there, let's talk about this.
So I look forward to hearing what you have to say.
What you can see at the moment on the screen there is the port of Ust-Luga. So Ust-Luga, to remind people of where that is in, you've got the Baltic Sea here, you've got the Gulf of Finland, and
it's in that little cut-in.
You have these very important ports of Vyborg that was struck last night, and then you've got Primorsk, which was struck about 3 nights ago now, and I think is still burning last night. I don't know if it's still burning now. Probably
and then right there. Yep.
And then you've got Ust-Luga, which is around here. And it's some incredible, there it is, incredible footage coming from Ust-Luga. This is a major, all of these three are major ports for St. Petersburg, for Russia, that allow them to export. And there's an argument that what has been going on over the last night has been an answer for, say, the US relieving sanctions on Russia so that they can earn money from exporting oil and gas. And then Ukraine goes, hold my beer, I will put on my own sanctions to what Russia is doing.
I personally feel that you're accurate there, that this was not the retaliatory strike for striking all the civilian targets yesterday, because strikes of this magnitude and what Ukraine does takes planning, lots of planning. And not something you're just going to flip the switch on in 4 hours and have this type of strike. So I think you're more onto it there, where this is a retaliation for, why don't we call it today, Johnny, the fuel war or something of that nature? Because, we're going to focus totally on Russia and Ukraine today, but the reality is, once again, it's all connected. Orban blocking gas to Ukraine today in a statement while gloating that Trump is endorsing him for presidency. We have that, and that, of course, relates to Ukraine and Russia. We have, for the first time in 5 years, the Philippines are buying a massive amount of Russian oil. So we see these attacks coming. I call them attacks because they help fund the coffers for Russia. Ukraine has to respond by cutting off the tap, the flow, and they're doing a phenomenal job at that. It's just going to continue. It's an energy war.
Yes.
And I see that Michael Gowdy there, the Trumpstein energy wars.
Yeah, and we'll get to what I think is an asymmetry in a while. Let's look some more at the footage. So Please. This is one of the videos that came out last night. I'm going to play it without sound. And this was one of the videos I showed in my hits and losses piece this morning, which talked to, okay, so Ust-Luga has been struck. This looks pretty good, excellent stuff. And I talked a lot about the ship, the
icebreaker
that was sunk in position, and then some of these videos say, okay, this is good. Ukraine has I think, done more to Russia with fewer drones than Russia did to Ukraine with 1,000 drones. And I think that's a very important takeaway. But, you know, I was not thinking too much of it. Then this image came out this morning. I was like, oh, right. Okay. So there's some serious fire going on here. There are 2 tankers that are apparently affected. So one of these is proper on fire and another one may well be likewise. And then there was this video that I think is well worth looking at, because this shows into the fire from last night. I don't know if you've seen this one.
Yes, I have.
The length of the fire going on here. So you go the other side of the window post there. I mean, that is I presume, if you're going to go back to the Ust-Luga map.
It's right on that.
It's like this entire area here appears to be on fire. So pretty incredible footage there.
It's when you're that far away and the length that you're looking at is that long, the closer you'll get, the bigger it'll get. So it's a
big old fire.
It's a big old fire. As I said, everyone get your weenies and marshmallows prepared, stick your hand out your window. You'll get a little heat from that area of Russia today, no matter where you're at. There's so much fire up there, it may melt the polar cap. I'm sorry. You know what? And everyone knows that I am not a hopium guy. Never. I just want to be factual, always hopeful, but I don't want to just pump people up for no reason. But the bottom line, having a little fun with it, this is a big one, a real big one.
Yeah. And this short video here shows 12 explosions. So there were a number of drones. Some I claimed this morning that there were maybe 250 drones sent by the Ukrainians. There were some claims this morning that there were 400 drones sent into Russia, and many of them going up this direction.
I had the number of 250 plus. In addition to that, we've got these light drone / unmanned light aircraft dropping glide bombs. Big deal today with information coming out that's confirmed. Yes, right there.
So those are your Foxbat, the A-22. They've used these before. These have been used, and they've been used with bombs before. In fact, that might be an old photo. But that they used them last night probably means they've been making a few of these, getting ready for something big.
The big deal on that is, yes, they've used them before, but the big deal about this and why it's getting news today is where it was dropped. It was dropped on St. Petersburg area, and this is the first time that the Leningrad region, St. Petersburg area, has had a physical bomb dropped on it out of the sky since World War II.
And there's one of those planes there. Doesn't look like it's got the bomb underneath, but maybe packed full of explosives itself. And then you've got, here's a sort of infographic thing that, or video that the Ukrainians have released.
General Staff releases that.
Yeah.
Yes.
So this gives you a sense of how far it was and what's been achieved. There's Ust-Luga, and it's that right-hand side, and it appears that much of this is on fire as they went over and either dropped munitions or themselves flew into the tanks and whatnot. And
they were heavily smoking last night.
Yes.
And
weren't they just?
It didn't extinguish properly. And I'll remind you of the old gospel song, Johnny. It only takes a spark to get a fire going.
Yes, and quite a fire and quite a few sparks, arguably. But this is a really, really significant strike, because this isn't just, I mean, you can see the various videos here showing the extent of the fire. This is a serious bit of port infrastructure, and Ust-Luga is one of the most major Ukrainian ports. So I think we are seeing a really significant strike. I'd say that this is arguably the single most important strike.
No, I couldn't disagree with that. We can put it in top 3, but I think you can move it to 1 due to timing. Yeah, which would elevate it. It's one thing to have this type of attack when the war's going along as it's been going for now into 5 years. But when the Middle East is at war, we're having an energy war. Hungary is doing all of their actions against Ukraine. This timing of this strike makes it the best.
Yeah. Yeah, and really significant fire there. You can see during the daytime today, so it's obviously still burning, as you would expect. What I wonder is whether mainstream media in Western nations, US, UK, Europe, will pick up on this, and we'll talk about, we'll report this, because quite often it just doesn't happen. And I'm reporting, like when the underwater drone hit the submarine in Novorossiysk, I thought that was one of the most significant outcomes in terms of, you know, tech and asymmetry and Ukraine being able to achieve X, Y, and Z, and yet it didn't really appear in the mainstream media at all.
Okay, let's just do this. We're on a live, and I don't need to share my screen. Just everybody, we'll go to the top, and ranked in no order. But here's Fox. More U.S. troops now heading to Middle East. Pentagon orders deployment as amid Trump peace talks, which we know that Iran has rejected. Republicans fume at Schumer. Police are begging for answers in a town, and Stephen Colbert reveals a big surprise. Tiger Woods, Supreme Court, Vince Vaughn, Utah mother. Okay, that's Fox. Let's go to CNN. Spike in gas prices. Democrat Emily Gregory flips deep red Florida House district that includes Mar-a-Lago. ICE agents working in the airports. Savannah Guthrie gives an update on her mother, which is a huge story and so sad for her. Supreme Court about the internet. Let's go to ABC News. Iran update is the main story. Savannah Guthrie. I went through 3. I'll do one last one. Let's go MSNBC. And ICE at the airport unmasked. Trump business motives. White House, Democrat and Republicans. Iran. Houdini.
Now, obviously, they're going to have to fact check and make sure that this.
I understand. Epstein. Well, they fact check everything. Here's the bottom line. 0 on those. 0.
And we have a couple of opinions from Russians here that I think are probably worth sharing as well. So this is a Russian mail blogger saying, however, unfortunately, there are hits. Footage of the hits is already being widely circulated on Ukrainian channels, where a strike on the icebreaker in Vyborg was recorded. A bulk carrier in Ust-Luga was also hit, causing a fire, and that's part of what we saw. The extent of the damage is still unclear, but the trend is extremely dire. The enemy is deliberately disabling port terminals, infrastructure, and specialized equipment. Yes. With the goal of closing the Baltic Sea to Russia. Yes. The accuracy of strikes at such distances shows that there are problems with range, no problems with range and targeting as such, and the number of attacks is increasing. And then we have, and this is from Primorsk, so before Ust-Luga, this was from yesterday effectively, you've got the journalist Maxim Kalashnikov saying, quote, the Primorsk port, from which our oil exports were carried out, has stopped operating due to an attack by Ukrainian kamikaze drones. There is a major blow to the country's economy and budget. These are the results we have in the 5th year of the special military operation. So he's obviously a little bit disappointed there, but that alone in Primorsk was a hit on the economy. We'll imagine what Ust-Luga will be if indeed those strikes are as we see them, as we imagine them to be, and have the effect that we hope that they have.
Listen, yes, I see those posts, John Cromwell. I'm watching Johnny's joint chat. He's hosting this stream, but we're both streaming on our channels. Listen, Russia is being crippled. It's just a fact. And I was reading after a Russian this morning, preparing for this live stream, and they stated it was perfect timing for the sanctions to be released, even if temporarily, on Russia. Because if they had not been where extra money could flow into the coffers, you would have a significant crippling even more than understood of the Russian economy due to this. So
you have, I mean, Primorsk, you've got berths being hit there. So this was the other night. A Ukrainian drone hit Transneft port, Primorsk, in Russia's Leningrad region, there's a suggestion that 5 of the 6 berths were affected. So that's how you load the ships with your hydrocarbons. You've got Primorsk hit. You've got Viborg potentially hit, although that not as seriously, maybe just a boat and a building. But then you've got what's happened at Ust-Luga. This really, and then of course you've got the refineries themselves and the depots. There's imagery from I think Feodosia that or Fedorivka, maybe one of the two, with some really burnt out imagery coming from there in terms of fuel tanks. Just Ukraine have really upped the ante with their FP1 and FP2 drones, and probably FP5 Flamingo missiles and all these other ones, A-22 Foxbats. All sorts of weapons are being produced at scale. The key is scale. We've talked about this umpteen times, Greg, which is, all of these are game changers potentially. You just need to make enough of them. And Ukraine is now making enough weaponry to change the game. And I don't know if I'm being too hopey-copey, but I'm suggesting that the game is starting to be changed.
Well, I can tell you that strategic aviation has already been scrambled from Russia. It's scrambling right now in the Tupolev 22s, which is an atypical time. So I do not... Huh?
Revenge.
Yeah. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but over here watching the chatter, they've already been scrambled and they're moving. So at some point, it has to break. And Russia has proven that Ukraine is not going to break.
Yeah.
If you've done this for 4, now into 5 years, and Ukraine with the most immense amount of pressure against it. For example, President Zelensky has to stand against so much hate from key people that are needed to assist. And then you take it to the next level where there is a significant conflict between President Zelensky and Viktor Orban. And today, President Trump releases a video of a glowing review. Elect him for president is the greatest thing since sliced bread. And just put yourself in Zelensky's boots. He has to listen to that trash, but still communicate, be positive. I mean, last night I translated his update where he was calling on the world to make sure the sanctions are there. He made very direct statements about Russia and their ability to sell oil again, even if it's temporary or lasts longer. And the fact is, the longer the war in Iran goes, the longer Russia will definitely be able to sell their oil on the market. That will continue. So you destroy the infrastructure like we're seeing. But Zelensky then has to turn it around as a statesman and say, we're thankful to the United States. We're thankful to Europe. And
must hurt so much.
It's tough.
It's going to be fascinating to see what has been going on in Zelensky's head and in his cabinet and in his circle, like 10 years from now, 5 years after the war finishes, where the truth will out and he'd be like, yeah, I was headbutting the wall, I was punching the door, I was like really angry because X, Y, and Z. You can just imagine that.
Well, I'll tell you what, they know how to play the game. This is a story not getting a lot of coverage unless you may have seen it. I don't know, Johnny, but Budanov and Umarov and Kuslutzia, they came back, they reported on the meetings in the U.S., and basically it was, listen, these are worthless. We're not making any progress, and unless we get back to trilateral talks, they have their position, we have ours, and all they want to do is pressure us to give up the Donbass. So that was even what Zelensky said. But today, Budanov knows how to push the right buttons. Today, Budanov made a statement, it's public, that Ukraine is going to begin to grow their interest in Africa. With the friendships they have down there, the partnerships they have in Africa. Listen, that is just like an arrow right into the eye of Vladimir Putin and Xi Jinping, because that's their playground. And now Ukraine, Budanov saying, you know, we've got a lot going on in Africa and we're going to focus on that, developing that. So Ukraine knows how to push buttons. No question.
Yeah, they are doing a remarkable job at the moment. I think the last month, again, with the FP2 drones, those near-ear drones, where we're seeing just a 150 to 250 kilometer kill zone that extends right across the occupied territories of Ukraine, and they are hitting logistics, they're hitting trains, they're hitting equipment, they're punching. I did a piece on this in my hits and losses this morning, where you taking out 4 Tor M2 air defense systems, for example, and you're like, okay, take a bunch of those out in one place. Suddenly you've got a hole in the air defense coverage. Suddenly you've got a corridor for your drones. Suddenly your drones can get behind and wreak all sorts of havoc. And I think they're just systematically punching holes through air defense coverage by using these near-ear drones to take these systems and radars out, and then it's just going to continue to degrade. There isn't going to be it getting any better for Russia. They're not going to get improved air defense and radar coverage. They're not manufacturing those at the quick enough rate. And so I just see this as if nothing changes, then this is a one-way ticket at the moment, where Ukraine is improving their long-distance strikes and Russia's air defenses and radars are degrading consistently, and then that becomes a snowball effect, and then suddenly it's open season.
Okay.
So I think it's been open season in Crimea to some degree.
Pause on that for a second. Then why, this is just a question for you, then why over the last month, many mainstream media and analysts in the United States and Europe have stated, I can pull 5 different videos. If you give me an hour, I'll pull them up, but I won't. Russia has gotten stronger since this war began. Russia has gotten healthier. Their systems are better. I don't know what these people are looking at.
Well, they're not looking. I mean, the
but you've seen those videos. You've seen those analysts.
But the advantage we have is that we are in this every day, right? And we look at a range of data and a depth of data that if you are a journalist that reports on anything that you're given as a job, unless you're a dedicated Ukraine war journalist who's been sent to Kyiv and whatever, then you are going to be writing articles that you are told to by your editor, and you might have some kind of surface understanding, but you just exist in this ecosystem where you're feeding off each other or whatever, and you just don't have that depth of knowledge. And it's easy to think that Russia are winning if you listen to certain sources, but also if you just think like Trump does, that it's a massive country, it's got a bigger population, it's got a bigger economy. Ukraine are just sitting there with their caps open saying, please give me more, and that's why you get those opinions. It was really good to see an American general, I don't know if you saw it, American general talking about the innovation in that hearing to Senator Wicker, and that's like, that's the America that we saw a couple of years ago. Where's that gone? Trump, I know Trump has destroyed it. I would like that back, because there's a sensible military guy that's saying the right things and saying, Ukraine are amazing at innovating, we need to be learning off them. They're a beacon in this domain. We need some of that. So
we want to stay focused on Ukraine and Russia. This is what we promised, but it's all connected. But one of the reasons is the change at the Pentagon, significantly. You can talk about the difference between Trump 1.0 and Trump 2.0, and that was Mad Dog Mattis as the Secretary of Defense, versus this time we literally have Charlie Chaplin bouncing around on a stage giving rah-rah speeches, and in their heads, they're just the soldiers are just laughing at him. I mean, Mad Dog Mattis came out and said either last night or this morning that no, it wasn't Mattis. It was another one, another retired 4-star general. How Pete Hegseth is leading the Department of Defense and the statements he makes, all of our airmen, seamen, and ground soldiers do not support what he says. They support soldiering on the honest, ethical level. And when Hegseth makes these very open-ended, kill everybody, slaughter everybody, they're actually potential war crimes. So we have a mess in DC, and it's just affecting the whole world.
Yeah, Hegseth, what's he said? We negotiate with bombs.
We negotiate with bombs, and we're just going to kill everybody.
Yeah, and
it was
like,
I've got the
really?
video saved over here. And a 4-star general who's retired. Yeah, he came out and said, "Okay, that's a war crime."
Yeah,
that's not not the American way of fighting wars. It's not.
Yeah. Yes. So, never in history has a country been defeated as Iran has. We've wiped it off the face of the earth. And he says it with such glee. And then Trump comes on and then says, okay, these two, as in Dan Kane and Pete Hegseth, are really disappointed that I'm going to be bringing the war in Iran to a close. They want it to continue. So partly dropping them in it, but also partly showing them how gleeful they are at the destruction in Iran from a kind of military point of view. But yeah, so
yesterday, we got a big gift from Iran. Trump got a huge gift.
Yeah. So what was that other than doing a bit of insider trading?
That's the gift. That's the gift. And nice. I'm watching video over here on this screen. So I got Ukraine over here and Iran over here. They're writing on their missiles, here's your gift, Trump, straight to you. And now Iran has released an AI video back at the administration, say, here comes your gift. And it's an illustration of a big rocket coming straight to the Statue of Liberty. So honestly, there is something mentally wrong with that individual. And I don't want to harbor on that. Let's stay on 100%. Ukraine and what's happening. But
just going back to
just not possible.
Ust-Luga. I mean, this Vitaly here says enough fuel in this image, enough fuel at this port here to burn for a week. Tanks are more than 4 times bigger than in Proletarsk. So previously, big tank explosion places. This is a significant storage facility here, and I don't know how easy it is for one tank to cause another one to catch fire, or whether Ukraine. I wonder why Ukraine doesn't hit places like this on consecutive nights often. They don't often do that. It'd be interesting if they try and have another pop at Ust-Luga, because surely, right, we can get through. We succeeded last night. They're not going to get air defenses in now. So now's the time to actually finish your job and completely take out something like Ust-Luga. But I don't know. It'll be really interesting to see what happens tonight, Greg, to see what Ukraine has to say.
That's what I'm watching
what Russia
for
has to say as
right
well.
now. And I want to stay focused.
Just randomly, you say I want to stay focused. You mentioned
there is something I want to show you, and then we can move on. Please show that. Please show that.
Oh no, it's just Hungary, right? This is the latest Median voter survey, which has Tisza 23 points ahead of Fidesz party. So if there's no cheating, which of course we know there will be, Tisza would absolutely annihilate Viktor Orban's party, which given all the stuff you said and all the endorsements he's getting from AfD, from Rassemblement National and from Nawrocki in Poland, but then Trump in the US, even given all that and the interference from Russia, Tisza they are extending their lead, which is quite phenomenal. Anyway, sorry, that was out of place. But
it is in place. There's one thing you have to remember. The people of this world, and I mean globally, by an overwhelming majority, support Ukraine. Regardless of political affiliation, religious affiliation, et cetera, et cetera. They understand Ukraine is fighting a just defensive war to be free, independent, have a country of democracy and a future. And Orban openly gets so much press of his hatred towards Ukraine. Trump can say whatever he wants. I don't think it's going to. Vance is supposed to go visit. I think you're going to see. I don't see how Orban wins this without some kind of massive
Well,
shift.
you can't. There has to be there has to be cheating involved
Exactly.
in order for him to win. But I wouldn't put that past him. But it'll be good. Well, it's going to be interesting to see if the EU have anything to say about oversight and making sure there isn't cheating taking place. And if there is,
somebody
what they do.
Goldfinger says exactly so. Trump and Putin have lost. The world supports Ukraine. That's exactly what I'm trying to say. Can you please show my cartoon?
Yeah. Okay, let's just remove
and then I'll leave it alone. The Iranians you've been talking to for 2 days, are they in the room with us now?
Yes. Yeah, I saw a picture of Trump looking in the mirror, saying, and then the caption was like Trump talking to the Iranians. It's like so a similar sort of thing.
Couldn't help it.
Yeah, there is a theory about that though, and this actually now, because initially I thought he's not talking to the Iranians, and then there are lots of people coming out saying he's not talking to the Iranians, but then some people also saying that the power has diluted in Iran quite significantly. Whereas it used to be concentrated just in Khamenei, and now it's filtering, and actually no one's quite sure who's doing what and saying what. And as the US has successfully taken out a lot of the regime, there's no question there's a lot of people who've been killed. That actually it could be that the US is talking to some people, but they won't be representative of Iran. So there probably is a case of Jared Kushner or Witkoff texting someone in Oman or wherever it is, or Pakistan, who's speaking to someone in Iran. And that's probably happening. But it's whether these conversations are meaningful enough, given that it's very difficult to work out who is actually running things in Iran. And in fact, Trump keeps saying that. He keeps saying, we don't know who's running things because they're all dead. And we don't know what's happened to Khamenei's son. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's why we're at the time of patience. And it's why, we're now Wednesday. The first deadline was a disaster and tacoed. And then we've been striking energy infrastructure. Now we're up to Wednesday. All the while, those Marines, they're on the way. And
if there's boots on the ground, that's a loss in my that's just it can't.
I feel there's a greater than 50% chance that boots will be on Karg Island.
The Iranians will want that.
Absolutely, they want that. Absolutely, they want that.
If they kill 10, 20, 50, 100 Americans, any of that, it's just like that's a massive win for them and a disaster for Trump. And I like, what a risk, just huge risk. Like there are. I've got a big old video to do on Iran, but there are some theories that some people are saying he's desperate to get himself out of Iran, but he doesn't quite know how to do it. And it seems to have, if Trump is to be believed by saying Pete Hegseth wants us to go even harder on the war, then it probably is the case that Hegseth's like, yeah, let's put boots on the ground, let's get war fighters involved and lethality and all that stuff he keeps talking about. But Trump might be reading the markets and going, actually, this is a disaster. However, as I'm reading the markets, I'm just going to put a load of money on this because I know I'm going to make some money. But yeah, so I think there was another report saying there's just chaos in the White House, that actually no one really quite knows what's going on. So yeah,
for me, being an American, I would definitely agree with the latter of those options. It's obvious to see that we have chaos in our White House, and a lot of it you can read through body language and movements where people are positioned, what people state or do not state, how they state it, and it's obvious.
I mean,
and when I say that, I'm talking when you're in a press conference and you have 6 cabinet members sitting there and these crazy statements are made by Donald Trump, and you see a cutting of the eye by Rubio, even though he's supporting now openly this president, you can still see, the head drop. Those little actions are there that are telltale that it's just absolute chaos at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue.
Yeah. Well, I was just going to throw this in as well, because you're starting to see this quite a bit. I know we're going off Ukraine a little bit, but Andy Ogles, I'm not the biggest fan of Andy Ogles. He's a guy that does Christmas cards of all of his family carrying AR-15 guns and whatnot around a Christmas tree. That's the kind of guy he is. This is a battle of good versus evil. We must reaffirm that our nation is built on Christian principles. Come and join us. And you're getting like crusade vibes, a bit like Bush in Iraq, that actually there's this sense that there is a Christian crusade going on into Iran, rather than, hang on guys, let's just think about this from a strategic, international, global economic point of view. There's a lot at stake here. Just going on a Middle Eastern like crusade jaunt is probably not a sensible thing to do, but there you go.
Well, all right, I'm gonna speak straight to it now. Here you go. And I am an ordained minister with 30 years of experience. This Christian nationalism is pure evil. There's nothing Christian about it. And these people are so far gone that it doesn't matter what Donald Trump does or says. They will believe it, follow it. I have been saying this for years now, especially the last year. We are witnessing a public demonstration of Jonestown in Guyana, when Jim Jones is the leader and these people are blindly following and sipping the Kool-Aid,
drinking
daily.
The Kool-Aid. Yeah.
It's just the way it is. And I don't even look at social media, because these people are so ignorant. And I'm just sorry. They are. And if you take that personally and you're my friend and you're watching my YouTube video right now or later, and you say, well, Greg, you like believe in the Bible too. Yeah, I believe in the Bible, but not the Bible you're preaching or teaching or listening to. I don't know what you're reading. You were following blindly an evil, incompetent human being who is a disgusting felon. And it's like Adam Kinzinger says constantly, if that's your viewpoint, you're gone too. That's just all that's to it. And we can't get them back. Yeah,
I agree. So going back to Ukraine, something that I see as being a really good thing, we've already talked about these near-rear strikes and the FP2 drones and the Balava drones and these drones that are creating these kill zones and they're being used so effectively. Here we have, and I'm sure you've seen this video, this is the set of Bastion as a column of them. There's at least 3. These are launchers that fire Onyx and Zircon anti-ship missiles, very difficult to shoot down. They're not ballistic missiles, but they are, I guess, like they're very decent cruise missiles that are just very, very hard to shoot down. Anyway, here we have a video of these being taken out, a couple of them being taken out, one certainly being destroyed, one being at least damaged, and then a couple of missiles cooking off. And we're starting to see this a lot more. I read out a list of launches that have been struck recently, going from all the way up in north of the border down to Crimea. And you've had Iskander launches in Crimea. You've had now Onyx launches elsewhere, Iskander launches elsewhere. And I think Ukraine is systematically trying to stop Russia being able to fire these missiles as well, which is really good. So this video,
there is a lot of strikes additionally from Bryansk they're trying to eliminate. But we've got good information coming out that Ukraine over the last couple of weeks as well has been able to eliminate significant air defenses in Crimea, which is also beneficial for them taking out these launchers.
Well, that's been a months long thing. So I've been reporting, like, it started with Primary, the unit Primary, which I think means ghosts in Ukrainian. And the Primary unit was systematically using, I don't know what drones they were using. It wasn't FP2, but then we were getting loads of videos. It started actually, if you remember, there were videos of using unmanned surface vehicles to use them as repeated drones for FPV drones to then go along near the coast and take out radars and stuff. And we saw them just take out radar after launcher after radar after this and that. And then other units, and then these FP2 drones have been joining in as well. And Crimea has, goodness me, they must just keep piling in assets into Crimea in the hope that they won't get hit, and then they get attrited as well. And it's got to be close to open season.
I think one thing that's really good to share here is, unless you've been there, which you have, and I have, of course, when you just look at a map, it's really difficult to comprehend how close, for example, Crimea and the city of Kherson is. You know, you look at a map and you see then the occupied territory south of Kherson and then the land bridge down to Crimea. Guys, it's just close. How close Crimea is to Odessa, to the city of Odessa. It's close. And when you're looking at places like Belgorod, the city, and I won't get ahead of Johnny here, but yeah, guys, it's just nowhere. It's close. And when you talk about Kharkiv and Belgorod, you know, if there's no war going on and there was no border checkpoint, you can drive from the center of Kharkiv to the center of Belgorod in 90 minutes. 90 minutes. If there was no border checks and you just get on the road and go straight to Belgorod. These places are close. Chernihiv to the Russian border, the Belarusian border, Sumy in minutes, half hour, you can drive and be in Russia. So it's really difficult to understand a lot of times when we hear missiles and drones and glide bombs and all of this happening, and you just look at maps like this and you go, oh man, okay, well, I don't really have understanding. It's close. Many times I've driven from the west of Ukraine straight to the front lines on the east in the same day.
And that means when you're sending one-way attack drones and ballistic missiles, they're very difficult to shoot down because they're so close. So that's why Russia have been having launchers parked behind Belgorod or wherever, and they send these S-300, S-400 surface-to-air missiles as ballistic missiles across the border into Kharkiv. And Kharkiv, even if they did have the Patriot systems that could take them out, you've got to be reacting super quickly because they're that close. They're moving that quickly. And even the drones, you don't have enough time to acquire them as targets and shoot them down. But then you don't want to have your really decent air defenses that close to the border because they're likely to get taken out. So it's really, really difficult. And what they need to do is take out the launchers here.
That's correct. There's two things that I can say about that. From the video yesterday, guys, I know Johnny probably shared that. I shared it, and it's everywhere. But these strikes on the civilian targets yesterday, you could see how low these shaheeds are flying, especially like on the attack in Lviv there, just, you know, right above the building level, just going around. The other thing that we do need to watch for, though, and this is even coming from Ukraine and the air analyst I follow, Ukrainian military guys that are 99% spot on. We saw an adjustment in strategy yesterday, and that was a very long-lasting attack, where if you take the 24-hour period, it was the largest number of shaheeds, 960 almost 958 over the 24-hour period. But what Russia did,
and then 147 over the next night as well. So
right.
you could add that, although that's over
you could. It'd be over
1,000.
But if you take that 24-hour period, but what Russia did, and I was watching all of this and then went to bed and then woke back up, but they started by attacking in the east. They were specifically going hard at Zaporizhia. And they were striking infrastructure, and there was a combination of some missiles and Shahed drones, and then it spread to Dnipro, and then it moved up into Ukraine. And that missile attack then started sending missiles in different locations, north, a little bit out west, northeast, south, and air defenses rolling. And then a wave of Shaheeds, air defenses working. And then the last wave of Shaheeds that flew around for 4 hours. And this is why the mayor of Lviv yesterday came out and says, hey, we're spending all this money on air defense. How did this happen to our city? Now, today he has come back and basically apologized because his tone was, of course, he's stressful. He was just attacked.
Yeah.
And Mygar came out and said, listen, man, we took out
that was
everything.
Amazing.
We
like
took
95
out. Correct. We took out so much. But the longer they keep stuff in the air, the more air defense is depleted. And then this comes back to the supply of air defense for Ukraine. And then I also shared they're increasing the speed of these drones over Shaheeds over 300 kilometers per hour, which makes it very difficult sometimes for these interceptors to catch up.
And there are, but the good news is that one, the interception rates were exceptional yesterday.
Fantastic.
And that was
on the big
amazing. Scale. And with this has happened over consecutive attacks with the cruise missiles, the basic cruise missiles. You're getting 100% interception rates, which is brilliant. It's the ballistics, of course, and the KH-5969 Onyx, Zircon, those kind of ones that are more difficult. But I'm reporting on more and more interceptor drones being developed. Again, I've added another couple to my next military aid video, and I only did a military aid video yesterday, and there are 2 more interceptor drones that they're like, these have been codified. And I showed a video, a couple of things that are important here. One, I showed a video of a Sting, the famous Wild Hornets drone that took out a jet-powered Shahed, and it approached a jet-powered Shahed at speed. So that Sting must have been going, I don't know how quickly, and it took out. And then there are a number of drones that are able to be operated remotely now, including the Sting and the Livitar F7 drone, and possibly the Jedi drone as well. And where I presume you can be sitting in a bloody office block in Kyiv, operating these interceptor drones anywhere around Ukraine. I don't know whether they're using Starlinks on them or whatever, connecting above. They're also starting to get autonomous capability. So, Ukraine, I wonder whether the improvement in interception rates is as a result of the improvement in interceptor production scale and interceptor, as they're learning, getting the feedback, improving the interceptors, they're just getting better interceptors. And I would assume that would be the case.
Well, that goes back to the testimony yesterday. Was he a general? I can't remember his name. But testifying.
Do you want me to find it?
Yeah, that'd be great. And he was just testifying. We are just blown away. I'm summarizing here what Ukraine is doing with technology and with their skills. And it's impressive. But if you're under this type of war every day, JP, if you do not evolve and change, especially when supply has been there, not been there, you're going to get demolished. So kudos to Ukraine becoming that steel porcupine and modifying and adjusting and learning. And once again, it just is a compliment to the ingenuity of Ukrainian minds.
This is Lieutenant General Whitney.
The biggest thing we've seen coming out of Ukraine is the rapid pace of innovation and how quickly they turn new concepts. In terms of, they'll fly things and they'll test them, and then they'll iterate and constantly improve it. I think General Lyons
that would be exquisite and low cost.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Just as a general way of doing business, their level of innovation is out of this world. And I defer to General Lyons if he has some specifics.
Necessity is the mother of
There you
invention.
go.
Yes, sir.
Necessity is the mother of all invention.
That's correct.
Mm. So, and that was really good for him to hear him say that. I mean, we shouldn't see that as something brilliant to see, but it is good. It is good to have some serious military personnel still on side with Ukraine and giving credit where credit is due to the Ukrainians. So that's fantastic.
Sir, let me just tell you something. An overwhelming majority of American military are with Ukraine and understand.
That would be the case.
Okay. We cannot judge the American military by Pete Hegseth nor Donald Trump. They are cowards. And that is not indicative of that hero general sitting there yesterday saying, kudos to Ukraine. Incredible what they're doing. People here from all over the world in both of our chats, all over the world, every continent. Somebody from Ecuador just checked in over here. So we got South America. We know we have Europe and the US and Canada and Australia and Asia. Guys, the world supports Ukraine, and do not allow idiots that make stupid statements. That President Zelensky does an amazing job deflecting and doing his best to keep the relationships peaceable and respectful. But the reality is the overwhelming majority of people support Ukraine.
Yes. I wonder what your views are on the front line, because I get asked this a lot, where do you see the war going and whatnot, and, how upbeat am I at the moment about what's going on in the front lines? The Ukrainians are doing these sort of very localized counterattacks in a number of places, pushing back here, pushing back there. The Russians are still pushing in certain places. So Halaya is interesting because the Ukrainians are pushing down from north, but the Russians are pushing out like below that towards the west. And so, it's complicated. My views are briefly that the Ukrainians just don't have enough personnel to do large scale military maneuvers, and the military success will come from doing these distance strikes to obliterate the logistics, the stuff in the near rear, and then economic collapse for Russia that then leads to morale collapse, or maybe even a pulling out of troops. We are seeing low morale. We are seeing creaks and cracks, I think, in the Russian armed forces at the moment. I think that they are not in a good way, and they are possibly at the lowest ebb since this war began, and that gives me a hope. But it's just how large scale can Ukraine, what's the size of forces they can possibly muster given the demographic nightmare that they're facing at the moment. So I'm kind of a little bit all over the place with regard to what's going on the front line, but I am quite hopeful that Ukraine is able to push, and that Russia are possibly on the brink of having morale really bite.
Okay. I agree with your assessment, and I think people that are active viewers of your channel or mine know that we earlier did lots of frontline updates almost daily, especially earlier in the war, because it was much easier to confirm and analyze before drones took over and that kill zone expanded and the zero line became gray and moved. I've done a lot of talk with soldiers, and I remember the last time I had Viper on, he's saying, listen, that gray zone just moves back and forth. Yeah. So you stated it perfectly. Ukraine has mounted some counteroffensives in the south and taken back some territory. They've actually had a little push on Chasiv Yar over by Konstantinivka. At the same time, Russia's moved in on Sumy a little bit more, where Ukraine will push down, Russia will push around. You're stating that perfect, but that's why if you look at the map, you really don't see a huge movement. And that is because it's impossible to move in the kill zone.
Yeah.
And that kill zone has moved from the 0 line, then to 500 meters, and then a kilometer, 3 kilometers. Now it's 30 kilometers, really. 15 kilometers from the 0, either side is a kill zone. And it's impossible to accurately, it's interesting. I want to ask you this question. Are you ready?
Mm-hmm.
Go back in time with me 2 months ago. And the big story that we were all talking about, and when we talk about Frontline and cities and positions and battles, was always the city of Pokrovsk. How much have you talked about Pokrovsk lately?
So yeah, it essentially got lost to the Russians, but kind of in a way that Ukraine was prepared for, so they can
That's
then just
correct.
They can retreat to their defensive lines. They're actually dug in. So the losing Pokrovsk, I mean, it's functionally lost anyway. So there's no
gone.
benefit. The only benefit to fighting in Pokrovsk is you're fighting there rather than somewhere further back. But
agreed. But my point being is, every day people were talking about Pokrovsk, and it's not that I'm being negative on Pokrovsk. I'm just telling you. You asked my opinion on the front line. The war has changed significantly. And the more these drones develop and the unmanned systems, I also agree with your statement that Ukraine doesn't have the manpower to compete with Russia if you just count bodies. Of course not. But technology, unmanned systems, the utilization of resources, rear strikes, it's a different warfare. And that is why the general in the video you just played made that complimentary statement. This is not the way warfare was fought in the past. This is, they're so innovative. What they're doing, they see something and they change it. And it was the senator or the congressman responded, yes, necessity is the mother of all invention. This is my concern, that if anywhere, if the U.S., I'm sorry to digress here, but if the U.S. thinks that we can just drop an amphibious boat onto a shore somewhere or onto Karg Island and put 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 Marines, 82nd Airborne paratroopers out on the ground, and what they're going to expect is warfare from 20 years ago, not going to happen. They're going to be experiencing drones coming at them like crazy. And the question then is, how do you deal with that?
Yeah, a couple of random things to try and support what I was saying earlier about the one direction of Ukraine moving in terms of scaling up production, distance, munitions, Russia losing radars, I mean, really expensive, decent Nebo radars and all sorts, and that going in one direction. And I've said this right from the beginning of my videos on the war, is that Ukraine keep getting better equipment from abroad, and this is when they were getting lots of kit from the US as well, and they're getting better equipment from abroad, and Russia isn't getting that. And as Russia gets attrited, has their equipment attrited away, Ukraine keeps getting given stuff, then there's one direction going on there as well. And Russia's now relying predominantly on much more unarmored vehicles. Now you can argue that actually it's very difficult, like you said, you can't move around, so the use of tanks and infantry fighting vehicles and stuff like that is going to be very different to how it was. But here we've got, like, they met with Latvia yesterday, so Zelensky and his team met with the Latvian defense ministers and all sorts. They're getting CVRs, so these are combat vehicles, these are infantry fighting vehicles that are really decent. They've already had CVR 90s from Sweden previously. They are, and I think they're having some built for them. Well, Latvia have begun transferring batches of these CVR-T armored combat vehicles to Ukraine. Deliveries continue. The equipment arrives to reinforce battalion units. Stuff like that. That's really positive, and they're going to continue to receive equipment, I think, from allies and make more of their own equipment. So that seems I think Ukraine are in a positive position with regard to equipment more generally. And then you hear this, which is that, and we thought this was the case the other day with some strikes on the Caspian Sea ports and by the Israelis as part of the Iran war. But Russia then responded to that, said, you can't do that. That's really important corridor of trade and blah, blah, blah. And everyone's like, I'm fairly sure they've hit some Shahed drones and whatnot going between the two countries. And now here, Michael Weiss reports from, I don't know what news source this is, Israel hits Russian Iranian weapons smuggling route in the Caspian Sea. Moscow and Tehran have used the world's largest inland sea to move everything from drones to oil and wheat. Quote, in 2023, ships plying the Caspian carried more than 300,000 artillery shells and 1 million rounds of ammunition from Iran to Russia, according to documents viewed by the Journal at the time. So not only is Iran probably not going to be giving weapons to Russia at the moment, there are some arguments to suggest Russia is giving some Shahed to Iran, actually, to help them out with strikes. But that's going to be a struggle.
That's directly from Zelensky himself. He said it.
Yeah. But that's now going to be more of a problem. So you start looking all of these little dots and join these dots up. And I'm in a generally, I mean, the only issue, well, not the only, the biggest issue that Ukraine faces is boots on the ground. Like, because even if you do want to retake territory, you are going to have to do that with human beings to move through buildings and into trench lines and physically take these areas. It's much more difficult to do that with, say, drones. You can functionally control areas to some degree, but in order to retake land in any meaningful way, you're going to need a lot of people. And Ukraine just don't have those people. And that is their big weakness.
Okay, so then I have a question for you. Do you see, if things continue the way they're progressing right now, let's say for the next month, the war in Iran, chaos everywhere, Hungarian things, Ukraine and Russia continue to fight as they are, nothing really changes. The war just keeps going on attrition. Is that because then I have a follow-up question for that.
The big thing is the 90 billion euros. Honestly, this is freaking huge, right?
Yes.
Ukraine are screwed if they don't get that 90 billion, and it might rely on not Robert Brofty, bloody Peter Magyar from the Tisha party in Hungary winning that election. If he can get into power, unlock that, and if Robert Fico then goes, actually, maybe I'm a little bit on my own, but then it depends on where Czechia is going. You got these other, all these kind of chess pieces moving, but it is absolutely vital that Ukraine gets that 90 billion. Otherwise,
so I agree completely, and that is confirming of President Zelensky. So now I'm just trying to help people understand timelines here. So now we're March 25. We're looking at, unless something, crazy happens, next big piece of information is the April 12th election in Hungary.
Yeah.
Is that?
Yeah, I think that's the next big thing. And also
I'm asking that
offensive. So the Russians are supposedly doing this offensive now. The Ukrainians have done a really good job to do the preemptive offensive or attacks in Hrypole and Kamyanska by Zaporizhia. That then takes a wind out of the Russian sails. They then have to change their plans. They have to adapt to that. Then they've been trying to do their offensive now. But every year they've been supposedly doing these offensives. They've been really underwhelming. And this year it looks like it's going to be the most underwhelming to date, and if that's the case, then, and we've got a turning point with drone strikes at night, then I just think that this war could be turning now, and
I don't disagree.
Militarily, Ukraine can put the pressure on Russia, but most of that pressure will be not from on the ground. It will be from drones, short, middle, and long distance.
This is a question I've been wanting to ask for years. It's not going to be an emotional question. This is going to be a tactical question for you, Mr. Pierce. Since I wanted to lay that out there, we see economics, we see global instability, we see Ukraine hitting infrastructure, Russia doing what they do, potential movements on the front lines. Okay. When does the war change and Ukraine start to strike at government infrastructure? in retaliation for what Russia says they are doing, hitting the recruitment offices, hitting government administrative. I can take you on a tour where every regional administrative building, especially Kharkiv, Sumy, Donetsk area, Kherson, Mykolaiv, they're all destroyed.
They don't need to, and they shouldn't do it. So Russia does that
because that's what the world says. Listen, that's what the world says. They go, strike the Kremlin. I say, oh, you better be careful.
They just need to play the game they're playing now.
Okay, I agree with you.
Economic game, which is to utterly denude Russia of the ability to make money to prosecute the war, and so it's hit military industrial complex, and there are a lot more they can still hit. There are places that are further afield that they've been struggling to hit, but also I think that they can just, if they sent 400 odd drones towards St. Petersburg or whatever, I still think that they should be sending 200 drones to Novorossiysk and sink the entire Black Sea Fleet. And I'm fairly sure they can do that if they really, really wanted to do that. But I do also wonder whether they don't want to hurt Russia too much that Russia goes nuts. There's this, what I call the Putin paradox, which is the better Ukraine do, the more likely Putin is to do something mental. Which
is a loaded Oreshnik on the center of Kyiv.
Yeah, that kind of thing. And so they're having to play it maybe carefully, but just keep doing what they're doing.
Okay.
And the slow.
Now into the 5th year of war, and we all have the emotional side of us. Oh, just wipe out the Kremlin. Okay. No, it's not that simple. Ukraine is playing this perfectly, and that was very encouraging for me because I completely agree with you, 100%. Keep taking their ability to deal with energy off the table every day. Have Gladkov in Belgorod making cry videos. I've been using my towel a lot, and people in here will know. I've got a new video today, guys, from the Governor Gladkov. Excuse me for a second, but 400,000 Russians in Belgorod have no power in the city.
Crimea River, build a bridge, get over it. Yeah, so it's just, and the Oscar goes to.
Yeah, I make videos now, and I always play Gladkov because he'll come on there and he go, Добрый вечер, дорогие. Сегодня было очень сильная проблема, потому что мы без силы, без энергии. И знаешь, это будет сильная проблема. Может быть, наш дети будет Беларуси, но все будет хорошо. Но наш дом без энергии, без тепла. И, слава Богу, палеваса. And that's his video, and I translate it. And basically what I just said, oh, good evening, everybody, is just once again, I tell you, we got to send our children to Belarus, and we have no power and no electricity in our buildings, and 400,000 people have no power, and it's just very difficult, but we're going to make it anyway. Diebold, God help us.
So if Ukraine were to do what you were not suggesting, but what you
I'm not suggesting that,
yeah, then they lose a moral high ground, and it's really important that international allies of Ukraine aren't giving an excuse not to help Ukraine. So as soon as they start doing something that some people might justify, but others might not, as soon as there's a bit of a debate and an argument, then they're in trouble. So I think they need to, and it's you can say it's unfair that Ukraine have to adopt the moral high ground all the time. Russia can do what they like, but actually, if Ukraine just keeps doing what they're doing, then Russia will be unable to afford anything. And the problem is the relief of these sanctions at the moment, but Ukraine are trying to mitigate that so effectively.
Mr. Pierce, I submit to you on our Ukraine-Russia focused live stream that the reason Ukraine has global support from moral human beings is because they take the moral high
100%.
ground.
Yeah, and so it's so important that they keep that. It really
absolutely
really is.
It is the best card in Zelensky's deck. We have the moral high ground. They kill our soldiers and his daughter at a maternity hospital in Ivano-Frankivsk. And We cry, we salute them, but we do not go kill their children. That's why the world recognizes. I mean, hey, let me ask you this question. We make videos every day. Nobody in the world makes more videos than you. You do get the record. I have no idea how you do what you do. For me, it's the morning to early afternoon update, because I take all the information and get it out there. It takes quite a while to do the translations or the voiceovers. And then I look in the afternoon and get that evening update if need be. If not, I won't, that's how I function. And then lives. With all the videos that you do, all the countless hours, the thousands of comments, how many times have you seen people in the chat write, "I'm so proud of how Ukraine handles this, how Zelensky leads, how he responds to pure evil"? For me, some like that context, I get over the week thousands of comments like that, where people are just appreciative of how in the face of evil he leads with dignity.
I think he's managed the war in an exemplary fashion. He
Yes.
does get his critics, but I think you can't fault him too much for under the pressure he's been under. And he's also the busiest. He must be exhausted. He is the busiest politician I think the world has ever known.
4 hours of sleep a night.
Is that what he's getting? Yeah. He must have visited 9,000 countries.
Yes.
In like 4
Sir.
years. It's just so relentless.
Once again, we talked about the zero line so people understand it's not a zero. I mean, it is, but it's not. We talked about how close targets are. For example, Crimea or Belgorod and Kharkiv, so people understand. Let me add something to that you have great experience with. President Zelensky's not getting on a plane in Kyiv and going to these places. He's riding a 10-hour train to get to Poland.
I was wondering this, actually. I wondered whether he gets special dispensation to use like a helicopter or something, or whether he goes on a train to Poland every time.
Every time. No, I'm not with him. I'm not with him. So I'm not going to say he's not been on a helicopter if there was an emergency situation, but I have never seen a clip of him, a video of him, a statement that he's ever on any air transport inside Ukraine. When he goes to the front, he's on a train. And he gets off, and then he has his motorcade or whatever. He takes the train out of Ukraine.
Yeah.
And by the way, have you noticed the difference with what Ukroznista or the Ukrainian train company has now done? When they are under air alarms, they stop the trains and everybody has to get off.
Yeah, I've seen that a lot. Yeah.
I support that because we've had too many trains hit here recently.
Yeah. Yes. So let's do a little bit of thank you to the very good, kind people. So first of all, thank you. First of all, please remember to subscribe to the channels if you haven't already done so.
Please do.
That would be super, super cool. And thank you to the members who don't get enough thanks. So thank you to the members who are keeping the lights on. So thank you. So
second, before you get to those,
now
my turn to say both channels, and of course Johnny and I are speaking to both audiences. Thank you to the moderators. We both have great moderators, and we thank you. Many times, we call on you and say, "Oh, going live at a different time," or "Going live in 30 minutes, something happened." You're always there. And
mate, to be fair, like 30 minutes is like I'm going live in 2 minutes. That's the amount of
then I'm just like, extra special kudos to Johnny's mods, and I know some of them, but for me as well, just It's
Absolutely.
so you guys don't realize how encouraging, channel members, moderators are. I can speak for Johnny and he can speak for me. We put a lot of work into this and we appreciate all of you.
So I had a troll the other day who's like, and I do my hits and losses videos, which take into account everything that's just happened in the last 12 hours. So sometimes I'm doing it and I'm going through, oh, I just need to check that nothing else has come out right now. Oh, look, here's some more information. Someone, obviously like a paid up Russian troll. I'm like, this news is always so old. I'm going to go to another channel that gets much more recent news and all this old rubbish or whatever it is. Like, I'm like, and that's on my hits and losses video. I'm like, you tell me, you give me another YouTube channel that gets you as recent information as I do every single morning. I was like, damn it, but of course, that's what these trolls do, is they just drop these negative comments in to try and like skew people to in denigrating the channel, not to give the channel time of day and so on and so forth. Anyway, Petra Olsen giving some love to
Swedish
you and
non-smoking
Ukraine.
initiative, Petra.
Indeed. Thank you very much from Sweden. And thank you to Dunk on You working but listening, Slava Ukraini, for
he's one of my
key
key mods. Have been with me a long time, and he's on his work shift right now. So blessings to you there, Dunk. See you in Discord later.
And you've got Nadia Kolakowski, if I've got that right. Syracuse temperatures went up 5 degrees. That's probably because of all of the greenhouse gases that are being thrown up into the air at the moment by burning oil depots.
Johnny, should we start a fundraiser for gas masks for Russians because they're going to be breathing so many toxic fumes around these big fires?
Yeah, I mean, look, I was just showing this in the background. That's the latest video coming out from Ust-Luga. But yeah. So thank you, Nadia. Dunk on You, 10 Greg Terry
gifted memberships.
Experience.
Thank you there, Dunk.
And Rick from the Netherlands, nothing to see here. Russia shot everything down. nothing to see here. Yeah. But Luga, it's a firework display, is what it is. And any fire that took place was just a misfired firework.
This reminds me of a video I used to use in my first year of doing YouTube when I had 3 people watching. My wife, my mother, and Skeghead from Australia. And I had a great video of a guy who's like engulfed in flames all around him. And in Russian, he's going, "There's nothing to see here. There is nothing burning. There is nothing on fire. All will be good." I've got to find that video again. In fact, today I'm going to hunt that video down. I need it.
I'm just trying to see if there are any
the attack on Ust-Luga is covered quite a bit in the largest newspapers in Norway today with lots of beautiful pictures. Beautiful, Stephen.
And it's not being covered, say, in the BBC, Guardian, anywhere I've looked so far. It's just not there. So obviously there's a geographical proximity to
That's
your
true.
Woods,
Norway
Stephen.
wraps up around there.
Yeah. So you're going to have a bit more of that, but still, I'm just quite amazed.
I'm sorry, I'm taking a headache pill. I've got a headache today, guys. I get migraines. Do you get migraines?
My partner gets migraines.
I get
and when
significant
she was
migraines.
With our twins, she got loads of migraines.
Gertis also gets terrible migraines, and I guess Republicans get migraines.
I was just about to say that. It's just about to say us people that have a much.
You people that are all right don't get migraines. I understand it. All of us people that are all wrong
properly.
We
get
migraines.
When the brain works properly, no migraines.
But let me give you this: when I'm trying to see if a story is being reported on at all, I like to go to something like news.yahoo.com or news.google.com because it brings in all the sources. So right now I'm on news.yahoo. Top story is Iran rejects U.S. proposal. And that actually was just confirmed again. Like it's for real rejected now. It was just reported, not the hearsay. Travis Kelce's American football player, Nancy Guthrie. Germany talking about Iran. Okay. 0-0. Libya tows drifting Russian Shadow Fleet tanker to avert a Mediterranean spill. About halfway down. That's the only story in here on anything. about Ukraine or Russia.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, in fact,
That's
what
why
we've
we're
got,
here, man.
there's in the BBC, like in the BBC Europe section, here we have Estonia and Latvia say territories hit by stray Ukrainian drones. Now that did happen last night and the night before.
Hit a
but
chimney.
That's
A
on the way.
smokestack.
Yeah, that's on the way to smack the crap out of Ust-Luga. So the fact that you're not reporting Ust-Luga is just truly bizarre to me. Anyway, c'est la vie. Thank you to Stephen Bendal. Thank you, Kevin Force, for your ATP Geopolitics memberships. Really super
Love
generous.
that patch there. Yep.
Yeah, absolutely. And is Russia hoping to break Ukraine or Europe? The answer is yes, Rick. Yeah, I did a little mini rant yesterday on connecting all of the political parties in Europe, but actually in the United States. So I connected AFD to Rassemblement National in France, to Confederation in Poland, to the coalition in Czechia, to Reform in UK, to MAGA in the United States, and they're all peas in the same pod, all funded in similar ways, all pro-Russia or all anti-Ukraine. And they're just, honestly, there's no difference between any of them. And I said yesterday, look, if you're going to vote for any of those people in any upcoming elections, you are voting against Ukraine. It's just like
you stated earlier that the 90 billion aid package from the EU is critical. So logically, Russia definitely wants to break that EU. Of course, they want to break Ukraine. They're in a war, but I'm sure they're doing everything in their power to disrupt that 90 billion.
100%. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. For sure. And I just think there's an existential war going on in the world at the moment. There's a battle for hearts and minds and
good and evil.
Good and evil. And it really is, democracy and autocracy. It really is that's going on right now. Thank you, Stephen. Thank you. I've gone fishing on behalf of Greg. I hope Zelensky gets a statue in Washington. I don't think that's going to happen in the next 3 years, though.
Well, this is what we're going to do. When I was in college, me and some of my buddies, I was the president of the student union, and we just did a joke one night. We went into the gym, took out all of the gym equipment, climbed up on the roof of the gym on the campus, put it all up there just for fun, went back to bed. Campus administration wakes up next day and all the gym equipment's on top of the roof. Just for fun. Didn't really get in trouble for it. We went and said, yeah, we were the ones that did it. So what I suggest in regard to a Zelensky statue in Washington is this. Once Donald Trump has built his Arc de Triomphe, we will go one evening and put a statue of President Zelensky on top of the Arc de Triomphe. I think that would be a great place.
I like your thinking there. Yeah, that works out well. Yeah, I like that. I'll second that. I won't help you do it, but I'll give you moral support.
It would be fun watching you climb a ladder.
Blonde Bombshell, a big shout out for Out and Cookies for all who hit the like.
Yes, thank you guys for hitting the like buttons. It's so important.
Ola Nielsen says, hi, gentlemen. Do you know why radar is so expensive? Love your podcast. My wife tells me to listen more to you than that I listen more to you than her. Yep. This is a problem that many of my viewers have. They spend too much time listening to me and not enough time listening to their partners, and they get in trouble. Hey ho. I don't know why radar is so expensive. Obviously, it's technological difficulty in manufacturing these things, sensitive equipment. I don't know if there's any particular components or raw materials that are expensive. I mean, we're hearing that helium being in short supply at the moment due to the war in Iran is causing things like MRI scanners, right, to be much more difficult to get an MRI potentially if helium keeps getting blocked and so on and so forth. I don't know with radars.
Sir, and you do make a big deal there that the world, we just need to keep our eyes on. We think about oil. We think about, the big things that are on our minds, but your mentioning of helium right there just brought me back to some sources I follow out of the Middle East. And their big thing they're watching right now is helium. So there's a lot of, I'll call it components or resources that make this world spin, and a lot of them don't come to our mind.
Plastic is now spiking in cost.
Of course.
Obviously, plastics depends on oil and
Yes, sir.
petrol and whatnot. Fertilizer, obviously. So there are some real issues. But yeah, Rob Cook had some interesting observations here to say military radar is
Thank you,
more
Matt
expensive
German.
than civilian, as it doesn't use ADSB and it has to work out at altitude as well. So there is that. But thank you, Ollie. Pyro Kurt Brubaker, thank you for being a member.
Yep,
and
one of my great mods there. There's F Oink.
Throughout history, religion has been abused to achieve personal goals.
I completely agree with that. In
yeah.
fact, each evening, my wife and my mother-in-law, we sit down, we watch a show. Right now, we're watching The Three Musketeers on Disney Plus, and I actually took note of that last night. It was all about holy wars and religious wars, and this is back in the 1600s. So very accurate, Oink.
It's a really easy, as soon as you're capturing a whole set of people, then if you want to manipulate those people, then you use the tools that are at hand, and it's a bit perfectly adequate. I mean, it says nothing about the truth of these things, but just as a tool, you can use religion so divisively. I mean, just see, because it becomes an identifier of people. Look at the troubles in Northern Ireland, right? Arguably, you could say the troubles are not religious in Northern Ireland, even though they're entirely religious. But you could say they're identitarian, kind of all political identity. It's about people's identity, and it's tribal. It's basically tribalism. This is my religion. I'm a Protestant. You're a Catholic. We live on this side of the road. You live on that side of the road, or this side of the neighborhood and that side of the neighborhood. And it's just another way of moving in groups and tribes. And so, and it presents itself quite easily for that. Okay. Kurt Brubaker giving you some
thank you there, Kurt.
Greg Terry experience memberships.
And by the way, guys, if you're in either live and you've not joined the Discords of Johnny or me, make sure you do that, because it's all this community and these chats you're seeing going on. It happens in the Discord, and it's wonderful.
I would love to be in mine more.
You're too busy making videos.
Yeah, I need more hours in a day. Uxbridge 2, if they dive with the interceptor, is the max speed increased? Keep up the good work. Yeah, that's a good point.
Yes.
So if they're coming at a height, then I guess gravity helps.
Yes.
And they come down, it's obviously easier than going up physically. So yeah, there will be an element of that. Just not good. First time in all history taking territory without infantry using ground and air drones is now possible. So I think I've said to you guys in my audience over the last few days, and Fedorov's talked about, no, it wasn't Fedorov, it was Beletsky. Andrei Beletsky talked about how he can see 30% of drones, 30% of troops being replaced by ground drones. And he said potentially that can move to 80%, in principle. And yeah, like I said, I was talking about this previously, Greg, a number of times in my last two videos, where I showed a robot fixing electric cables overhead, these big pylon to pylon electric cables. And they're getting, in China, they got some robot that's twisting these cables, doing all this amazing stuff. And they were doing that because the job's too dangerous for humans to do. I'm like, yeah, that job is dangerous by point of fact that maybe 0.05% of workers might have an electric shock injury once within 5 years or something like that. We're talking about like frontline troops. Okay, it's the most dangerous job in the world, I would argue. I mean, if you're Russian, you're basically going to die being a frontline troop. And Ukrainians, it's super dangerous. So if you're going to replace any job in the world, surely the first job you replace is the job of the frontline soldier.
But man, how quick do we move into, I don't know any other way to describe it, but like movie world, Predator,
I'm not
Terminator
talking
world.
about, I'm not talking about robotics yet, but they are doing that. Like
Yes.
Ukraine's received the first 2 robots to mess around with. But just in terms of unmanned ground vehicles, like if your job is to run over there with a machine gun and shoot at that trench, right? Then I'm like, well, I don't want to run over there and shoot that trench because there's like a 30% chance I'm going to die.
They've been doing that already with guns mounted on these ground drones.
That's my point.
Yes.
So obviously you could put a UGV with a Browning, heavy machine gun on there, and you send that in, and that's
already happening.
Yeah, that's already happening. Ukrainians are doing that. Russians are copying the Ukrainians doing that. Ukrainians are blowing up their UGVs up in Volchansk area and blah blah blah. And it's a tech duel between the two sides. But that it should obviously be the case that we replace, or the Ukrainians or Russians and the Ukrainians replace their troops with UGVs, because they've only got so many people. It's incredibly dangerous, and demanding that your blokey goes and runs at their blokies when both of you have got lots of guns is it's challenging. And so, I
want to tell you, while we're going through these super chats, Ukraine just released a 24-hour report 14 minutes ago, and that is from 14 minutes ago. In a 24-hour period, Russia launched 999 shaheeds against Ukraine, and that's the Ministry of Defense report, and 94.6% were shut down. So basically, out of 1,000 drones, 50 made it through.
Yeah, that's incredible statistics.
Incredible.
So,
D'Artagnan, hold on. D'Artagnan, yes, that's what I'm watching, Michael Lamming. D'Artagnan, yep. Sorry.
D'Artagnan, what?
Yeah, D'Artagnan.
Yes.
That's how you say it properly. Thank you, GP.
Yeah,
D'Artagnan.
Bit of French there.
D'Artagnan.
Tito Venezuela.
That is Tito Valenzuela from Honduras.
Yes, that's what I said. I was definitely saying that. He always keeps supporting Ukraine, the heroes on the front line, and all of you guys who keep us informed. The fight for righteousness in each and every way possible. Yep, Slava Ukraine.
Thank you. I may not be able to say D'Artagnan, but I can say Tito Valenzuela.
Yeah, good on you, mate. New, Greg, please send our heroes some Easter love.
And we've got something getting ready to release. So working on something in the background right now. It's coming.
Please send our heroes some Easter love. Thank you for new there.
Was talking to a representative of a soldier today. We're going to be sending some Easter love too. So just hang on. Thank you.
Good stuff. Julian Roster, if Orban loses the election, surely he does a runner. Probably pockets all that stolen Ukrainian gold and cash and ends up in Moscow with Assad. I was wondering exactly this, Julian. I was wondering whether he can physically hold on to an election that is not looking like he's going to win. And if he doesn't cheat his way to victory, then what? Because now you've had Peter Magyar come out and say that they are going to get the courts involved and investigations involved. And that essentially would look like Orban would definitely go to prison. Like if he's investigated, he's going to prison because he is corrupt. His private zoo that he's got, the amount of money that's come from the EU and into his pockets. So what do you do if you're him? Well, I'd expect him to run straight off to Moscow. So, ex-Penguin changes to
I
USA.
cannot believe that Donald Trump would endorse somebody that's corrupt.
Heaven forfend, as you might say. Ex-Penguin 95 says, what are the chances of changes to US aid if the Dems win the House and Senate in the November midterm elections? I don't know, because it would still need to be signed off by Trump. And
it would still have to be signed off by the president. And
but it
would definitely benefit Ukraine. We just have to see how the fallout would be. But once again, I remind
push
people
through an appropriations bill.
We're in March, and November is although quickly approaching, it's light years away as far as the world we're living in right now.
Yeah. But I do wonder whether they would have the power to push through an appropriations bill, and whether he could. I don't know what the rules go. Whether he could just hold up any bill forever, just unilaterally. I don't know.
He would veto, and then it would have to be overridden.
Yeah,
which can be done.
Goose Springsteen, good to hear from you, mate. He just got home from work, and now I'm going for a run, so I cannot vomit super chats and questions as I'd like to, but thank you both for all that you do. Thank you, Goose. Enjoy your run. Keep fit.
Run healthy.
Can you do my fitness? Can you get me fit vicariously, please? But like I need you to run for me. Rick from the Netherlands. Thank you, Jonathan Greg, for everything you do. Thanks for the amazing mods and all the great peeps.
Thank you, Rick.
What we said earlier.
Thank you for always your great comments.
Legend. Andrew Scully. Trump should hand over the Nobel Peace Prize he stole from that lady from Venezuela and give it to Zelensky. Says you're Andrew Scully there. So yeah, I don't disagree. Will that ever happen? No, of course it won't, because he can never show contrition or that he was wrong or that any decision he's ever made.
I'm going to make a prediction right now.
Do it.
If the war in Ukraine ever comes to a just peace, and what I mean is all the things that we desire and Ukraine desires, and the players are still on the stage, Trump will then go to Moscow and give his peace prize to Vladimir Putin and tell him he did it. That's my prediction.
I love the fact that Trump got the FIFA Peace Prize, which, as we all know, is a big part of absolute rubbish, and then promptly went to war. Like,
Yes.
thanks for that. I'm going to go to war, and I might even put American troops on the ground. Like, literally, I love that. I'll put that in my pocket. Right. What about that war? Like, haven't you just got the FIFA Peace Prize? Yeah, I got it. Loved it. Took the medal. Thank you very much. Let's go to war. Gee whiz. Right, Skeptic Canary. So my good friend Tom Williamson, I've spoken to him a number of times. He's a vexillologist. Is that the correct way of saying it? A flag expert. Don't really have much to say apart from thank you both. The mainstream media really
You're
aren't
very
covering
welcome.
Ukraine with everything else that's going on. And so it's fantastic that you are Slava Ukraini. Thank you, Tom. And I sometimes wonder if you're still watching, Tom, because, you know, I do wonder about people who have been supporting for so long and wondering, you know, whether they get war fatigue. So I think it's really important.
Cheryl,
I think it's great.
Cheryl Waitley.
People.
Remember the Epstein files? And Cheryl's one of your great mods.
So, okay. So there's a claim that's just come out about 2 hours ago. Almost said this earlier. Anonymous. You know, the hacktivists, Anonymous.
Yes.
They're the hacking group. They have released a statement saying they have the entirety of the Epstein files and they will produce them. Now, believe that when I see it. All the usual caveats, but it would be absolutely brilliant if they had
At the minimum, just the statement from Anonymous cranks up the heat on DC. So we'll take that.
Yeah. And you can go and find that. It's on Twitter and elsewhere. So brilliant. Thank you, Tom. You know they exist. All you 500 plus reliable people in the chat. Group hug. That's nice. Good to have that togetherness. That's one for you there, Greg. And Stephen Bendal, subscribe to ATP, get to 100,000.
Yes.
I think YouTube hates me. I actually think when I was banned from YouTube for a week because of misinformation, and I challenged that, saying I campaign against misinformation. What do you mean? And this honestly, like, how can you take my income away essentially for a week's of a month and then not tell me what I've said that has. Like, how can you punish someone if you imagine going to court and you're in court and like you've done something wrong? Okay, what have I done wrong? Well, it's on this list of things here. Yeah, but what did I do wrong and when did I do it? Because they wouldn't even tell me in this 50-minute video what I'd said wrong and how it is misinformation. So it's like going to court saying you've done something in this list of crimes wrong, and we're not going to tell you when you did it. You're going to have to guess at that, and you can't defend yourself because we're not telling you what you said, what you did wrong, and when you did it. And by the way, you have no income now for, you know, because this is my job type thing. And so I was like, that is outrageous. And I was thinking about like taking to court and all this, and it's all too much hassle. And luckily, I had my other channel where I could produce stuff on my other channel. But I think since then, I wonder whether they have just held me back.
It's impossible to figure out.
Yeah. Anyway,
JP,
thank you, Stephen.
JP, pause the super chats one moment. Just start talking. I know you're very good at it.
I can. What do you want me to talk about? I can talk about literally anything. I was going to bring up the anonymous statement that they made just so people could see it, but I think, you know, if the here it is. I'll just show that to you all now. I haven't listened to it. This has just come up since I've been live with you guys. But now the United States and Israel should be worried. The world-renowned hacking group Anonymous has announced that it will soon release the full Epstein files, exposing everyone involved one by 1. Now, yeah, that could just be a lot of hot air. You know, a lot of people saying, "I believe it when I see it," that kind of thing. Anonymous are just some puppets acting like they are something, blah, blah, blah. They've been saying it for months, haven't released anything. But, you know, if I was a hacktivist, the number one thing I'd be trying to hack and trying to get a hold of would be exactly that. So, you know, that can't come soon enough, because I think it explains so much. And there have been claims, Christopher Steele said recently, that both Israel and Russia have the Epstein files, and that is why they are able to manipulate Trump in ways in which he is easily manipulated. I mean, you go back to 2018 to the Helsinki press conference, where he was all about the Robert Mueller, what he would call Russia hoax, and saying that actually there is no interference from Russia, even though there is, and there's plenty of evidence in interference. The question is, can you prove collusion? And the Mueller report suggested you couldn't show collusion, but there certainly is interference. Anyway, Trump said he is exonerated. Had this press conference with Helsinki, with Vladimir Putin in Helsinki, and it involved meeting with Putin, where he met for half an hour with Putin on his own, just the translator, no one else in the room, and he came out and famously gave that speech where he just deferred entirely to Vladimir Putin and said, why would I not believe Vladimir Putin? I don't think Russia is involved, blah, blah, blah. And actually, he's kindly offered to bring his investigators into Washington to see. And I was like, hang on, not only are you prioritizing Vladimir Putin above your intelligence agents and agencies, but you're also inviting Russian FSB into Washington to check over your stuff. Just phenomenal. So I've long said the two worst foreign policy moments of Trump 1.0 were, one, hanging the Kurds out to dry in Syria. I thought that was horrific. And having people fighting on behalf of you and dying for what the America wanted from a foreign policy point of view, and then leaving them out to dry because Erdogan doesn't like the Kurds and Erdogan asks you to do that. That was poor. And the other one was a Helsinki press conference, which I think was horrific from Trump's point of view by throwing his intelligence agents under the bus. Anyway.
Thank you.
So
that was 2
Epstein
coffees
files.
and 2 bottles of water, and I was about to float down the river.
Indeed. No problem at all, mate. Mitch Ashdown, some Canadian love. Thanks, mate.
Yes.
Appreciate that. Mainstream media should advertise here so we know they still exist.
Completely agree.
But it is funny. We see the mainstream media, and we don't want mainstream media to die, because they are the ones that pay for reporters to go out and do things that are super important, even though Jeff Bezos has kind of largely given up on that for a lot of his Washington Post reporters. But they do a really important thing. Without mainstream media, we would lack an awful lot of content to be able to synthesize and discuss and analyze. But it is interesting to see, like, YouTube. Is it the Oscars going to be on YouTube next time round? That YouTube is cinema is being replaced essentially by streaming and places like YouTube. These are like super important places, but we don't want them to be monopolistic.
Not only that, I think mainstream media can never give you community. And I'm not talking echo chambers, because you and I are in here together agreeing on everything, and philosophically we disagree on a lot, and people in the chats from both agree on some stuff and disagree on others, but you build a community. You'll never do that with mainstream media. It's not possible.
I've gone fishing. Here's a joke to make Greg smile. Why did Vladimir Solovyov, so he's a propagandist, bring a Canadian on air? Because he said he loved poutine.
And I know what poutine is. French fries, cheese curds, and gravy, I think.
Yeah, sounds interesting. Andrew Scully, Aussie laser military radar system Apollo is a $1 a shot, works up to 6 kilometers and can shoot down 20 a minute. Military radar, laser military, that sounds good to me. I'd get that. I mean, the problem with all of these laser weapons that are being touted at the moment is they're the sort of thing that work really well on a ship where you've got massive power bank, and you can fire these things off willy-nilly and take out drones that are attacking a ship. But on a front line, where you really want them is shooting at stuff in a trench line area where the opposition are attacking, the enemy's attacking you with all sorts of drones, and you want to be lasering them out the sky. But how do you get that thing? You wheel it up to the front. Okay, you could disguise it, whatever. But then how do you get a power for such a heavy? And that's, I think, what the Ukrainians have said is that we are trying these things out, but one of the problems is, power, getting power to them in these difficult areas. F. Oink says the US corrupt dictator looks for like-minded European counterparts. That is, I think, you look at, these people like Marine Le Pen, like Viktor Orban, like Alice Weidel, they are just different versions of Trump, different versions of that form of populism, European style. Daryl Thomas, hey Daryl, this one's for you. Greg says, great job, guys.
Thank you, Daryl. Johnny, would you please pause that, go back to your regular chat, and grab the chat off of mine from John Hoover? Should be just up 10 or 15.
Okay. Yes,
John Hoover.
I will do that.
And then we can finish the super chats.
Yeah, there's only a few more, and thank you very much to those who have been so generous. Yes.
John Hoover, it starts with Greg. I want to give this man a...
Oh, here we go.
Thank you. Greg, I won't be returning to Ukraine this year. I was diagnosed with stage 4 lung cancer that has spread into my brain. Hope for 2027. John, pray for your health, man, and thank you for all of your service to Ukraine. Ladies and gentlemen, John has been volunteering in Ukraine for years. We communicate. He has sent me stuff from Ukraine, and that man's a legend that nobody knows about. He's just a wonderful human being that cared. And John, keep me posted, and we'll be praying for you. And John, I don't know if you're in my Discord or not, but if not, and you don't know how, find somebody that'll show you how and get in there so we can encourage you.
Yeah,
blessings, man. Blessings.
Yeah, hardcore. So Deb Stuff says, I thought Orban passed a law that blocked any charge that could be brought against him, similar to what Trump did with SCOTUS, or am I thinking about Belarus? I'm not sure. I've not heard that, but it wouldn't surprise me either.
I do know that Orban, they're playing this game now where they're also, and I haven't dug into it enough because I don't think it's worth wasting my time, but he even tossing around switching offices, kind of like Putin did with Medvedev. Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah, so I've not seen him do anything about that.
I haven't either. I just was reading about it. Yes.
Yeah. Daryl Thomas, for myself, some love to both of you. So thank you, Daryl. That's really, really generous of you. By the way, there's news that an F-18 has been shot down by the Iranians, American F-18. There is some footage. I don't know how accurate this is. Take it with a pinch of salt, all that kind of stuff. But breaking state media is claiming, it's an RT image video.
I can tell you if it happened or not. Hang on.
Claiming it shot down an US F-18. No confirmation from US officials. We've seen this before. Claims go out fast. Verification comes later. There is some imagery that seems to show a missile just hitting it there, and then it cuts away to a slightly different angle. It looks like it's hit there, and then I presume it's falling thereafter, but it's out of camera shot. They haven't caught it falling.
I can tell you that Iran claiming, and I'm watching Iranian media now, to have struck it down and it landed in the Indian Ocean, and also Iran did just destroy a U.S. helicopter with an FPV.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Goodness. Just on the Primorsk thing,
we'll see. Mm-hmm.
The firm data, this is Primorsk is still burning by the looks of it. So you've got Ust-Luga, which we were talking about at the top end of the video, and Primorsk as well. It is very hot in that neck of the woods. Let's
as we said at the beginning, ladies and gentlemen, stick your weenie or your marshmallow on your little. That didn't go too well, did it?
I didn't say anything. I just had to take a double take. I'm not sticking my weenie anywhere, mate. And anyway, who's to say it's weenie? Come on.
Place your hot dog or let's just forget it. If you need to cook, there's a lot of heat coming out of Russia today. Just stick something out your window. It'll heat your marsh. We're done.
If you need to heat
my
food,
migraine is taking over my ability to rationally think.
F. Voigt says, John, there is no interference from Russia. It's the truth interfering with their narrative. Yeah, this is, well, yes. You could look at it that way. Nothing like a bit of Russian interference. Goodness me.
Oh my.
You know they exist. Says, I've seen many testimonies by people with stage 4 who beat it 100% in 6 months using ivermectin and fenbendazole.
Fenbendazole.
Yeah, that's what I said.
Here's thank you guys and all of your love you're giving to John. Really, the dude has been amazing in his sacrificial support for Ukraine, physically being in the country. This is the point I was making about community. Everybody coming together. They don't know John Hoover and just giving love. So guys, appreciate all of you more than you'll ever know. This is what life is about, caring. That's what life's about.
Yeah, yeah. And yeah.
Monzucker Biscuit.
Monzucker Biscuit, gifting 5 ATP Geopolitics memberships. Thank you very much. Thank you, sir. And H. Lear Mexican Chili says, what's betting Orban arrests the opposition pre-elections? He has tried some things already, like Peter Magyar got attacked the other day by Tutushki type people. But I don't know how much Orban can get away with, because there will be a lot of magnifying glasses on this election, I would have thought, from Europe. But however, the OSCE, like what does OSCE stand for? Security and the OSCE are sending Organization for Security and Cooperation in Europe.
That's it.
Europe large is not the EU, so it has like Russian, I think, influence or whatever. But there's a Russian involved in that. In the OSCE, like, to have someone Russian overseeing election integrity in Hungary seems like insanely wrong.
This is a stream completely focused on Ukraine. And what happened to my camera? There. Completely focused on Ukraine and Russia, the war. I'm getting breaking news out of Ukraine now. It may not be breaking, but I'm just reading it. Chancellor Merz from Germany coming out, confirming Germany will not transfer Taurus missiles to Ukraine because Kyiv is already producing much better missiles itself.
Yeah, well,
for me, that's irrelevant that they're producing better missiles. Just the Tauruses would help. Hello. So anyway, I think they're concerned about,
because he had promised them before he was elected, and then got in, and then he's like, oh no. So there must be some German military reason why they really, really don't want them to go to Ukraine.
Probably because they truly are worried about Russia coming against Europe.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah.
What else would it be?
Yeah,
I don't know.
So one of the largest attacks on Russia's oil infrastructure during the war. That's what they're saying about Ust-Luga at the moment.
Good.
Right. So that is me pretty much done. I'm going to have to go and see my family now, Greg.
Yeah, I'm going to go and turn these bright lights off and get rid of this migraine.
Fair enough. Well,
I want to say again, thank you to everybody here. We've been going for almost 2 hours now, and we focus completely on Ukraine and Russia. We appreciate all of you standing with Ukraine and caring and showing love to John today when we heard about his situation. This is what life's about, and I appreciate all of you very, very much, especially you, JP.
I mean, I just want to say, finish where we started, which is, burn, baby, burn.
And don't stick your wiener out the window. Put the hot dog on the stick first before you stick it. Yeah, my Discord's going to blow up now with memes.
And what he said. Look, thank you, everyone. Really appreciate it. Long may Ukraine maintain some form of asymmetrical advantage here.
Amen.
And it's going to be really fascinating to see what happens tonight, and to from both sides, from the Ukrainians and from the Russians.
Yeah, I'm going to try to get rid of this headache and then be back at it here in a few hours and see what unfolds, because we're moving on. And somebody went by in the chat that said, thank you for the weenie roast. I think that's a very good way to end. You're welcome.
Slava Ukraini, my friend.
Geroam slava, brat.